Hey, welcome to the Julia Mata channel. If we're just meeting, I am Julia. I'm a women's fiction author. And today, what I want to talk about is at the end of last year, which was just 4 or 5 days ago, I asked everybody, or I kind of challenged everybody to think about writing a book in 2021 because why not, right? So, this is something that you probably have wanted to do, and now here's a new year. You might have some time on your hands, or at least uh, you had maybe some time in 2020 to kind of think about things. And this is just a great time to finally write that story that you have wanted to write. And what I wanted to talk about was that in order to write the best book, whether it is fiction or whether it's a memoir where you're writing down your personal story, what the best thing you could do is get to know yourself a little bit better. Which uh, you may be saying, okay, well, of course, I know myself. Okay, I have this mug that I bought years ago now. I don't even know how long. But what it says is life isn't about finding yourself, it's about creating yourself. And I loved that idea. I thought that, I don't need to find myself. Like I'm not lost. I know who I am. I just need to create the person that I want to be. So if I want to be an author, I want to be whatever I want to be, a great mom. I just need to create that person, right? So it's not as if that person is lost somewhere and I'm searching for her. She's right here. I just need to be that person. I need to do the things that I need to do to become that person. So I liked that idea, and I still do. I still like that idea. But as time has gone on and I've gotten older, more mature, I've realized that sometimes you do need to spend some time just kind of figuring out like who you are, how you're going to react in certain situations. Sometimes you don't know until that time comes what your reaction is going to be to maybe a tragic event or a scary event or something that happens, right? Somebody gets sick or something. How do you react? And what do you do with yourself? How do you react in an angry way, or do you try to fix things, or what is it that you're going that how you're going to act? Like you could say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to be this kind of person, but when the time comes, is that who you are? So, kind of figuring out a little bit about yourself, I think, helps you to be a stronger writer. Okay, so one of the things and what I'm looking at is I wrote this blog, and so I'm going to go ahead and um, write down the link at the bottom of this so that you can go and read it. But I think that sort of that self discovery is important for writing because the better you know yourself, the more honest you're going to come across when you actually do write. So let's say that you're writing a memoir, you're writing about your life. The more in touch you are with who you are and your feelings and why you did certain things, why you acted a certain way, why you had a relationship maybe with a parent or with a child, why you had that relationship. What was it that made you have a great relationship or maybe not a great relationship? So, kind of exploring that and figuring out, why, what happened, why did I feel a certain way? Then the better you're going to be able to write when you write those scenes in your life, because you're going to understand, like, why did I act that way? What happened? Maybe I'm not that person anymore, but back then, this is how I felt. These are the things that I went through that made me into that person. But now I've evolved, and now I feel differently. I act differently because I understand myself better, right? So figuring out those things makes you a better writer because then you can write more honestly. Now, when you're writing fiction, it's sort of the same thing. I think that the better you understand your reactions and the way you behave and the way that you think, the better you're going to be able to create characters that sound believable and that you can add things. So you can see like, okay, I acted a certain way when I lost, I don't know, somebody that I loved, right? Somebody got sick and I lost that person. And these are the feelings that I felt. And this is the way that I reacted, right? So I was angry, or maybe I was just really sad, and I couldn't get out of bed, and I couldn't function. Um, and so understanding that, what, the way that you behaved and what feelings you had, you can transfer that to a character, right? So when something happens to a character, it doesn't have to be the same thing, but it's something tragic in their life, or something happened. You can then be able to, you can transfer those feelings that you had to a character, because you've explored that in yourself. Okay, this is what, rather than, like, what I tended to do for many, many years is I um, just kind of went on. Like, I didn't really evaluate things. Okay, like this happened, and then I went on to something else, and I never really gave thoughts to how I felt, or why I behaved the way I did, or why I had the reaction that I had, or why I didn't have a reaction. Because that's really what I did a lot, is I just didn't have a reaction. I thought, okay, even like when my father died, and that's kind of a long story, but I didn't have a reaction. And why didn't I? So when I go back and I take a look at that now, it's like, well, because of the relationship that we had, which wasn't a good relationship, and I didn't want to deal with it, right? So I didn't want to deal with that pain of not having a good relationship, and then on top of that, having him die with nothing resolved. So it was easier just to not really have a reaction to it, not think about it, not deal with it. So now, years later, I can look back and say, okay, I wasn't just cruel or cold or unfeeling. It was a kind of a suppression of those emotions that made me act the way I do. So if you're writing a character that's like that, or you're writing a character maybe that doesn't show emotion, that doesn't do, well, I can understand that character. Because I understand me now, right? So I can understand, why is that character acting that way, and I can write the character in a believable way, so that when my readers are reading this character, they can understand why that character is like that, and not just kind of look at it superficially and say, well, that character is just unfeeling. Well, maybe or maybe not, right? Now, I don't write villains and all that, but that would be great for a villain, right? To write that in there and understand, like, why is this villain doing these things? And it's because of this whatever event in their childhood. So it's important to understand yourself better, because it'll make you a better writer. It'll make you a better creative writer. It'll make you a better authentic writer if you're writing things like a memoir. So let's see if there's anything else I really wanted to say. I give you some examples in my blog. So a long time ago, I used to, when I was, I think I was a college student at that point, early college. I just started college. I was living in Long Beach, and I remember going to this massive library that Long Beach has. I hope they still have it. It was amazing, beautiful library. I don't know how many floors it had, 4 or 5 floors, and just beautiful. And so I would go there to study, because I lived in a small little place, and I would check things out. And at that time, everything was in cassettes, so little tiny cassettes, or even records. Does anybody know what a record is? So just a giant, giant record. And I checked out this cassette. I think at the time it was a cassette of this guy named Leo Buscaglia. He was a professor at USC, and I think he was a special ed professor, or he taught teachers that were going to teach special ed. I can't really remember his entire background, but I loved his cassettes and his stories, and he taught about love. He talked about love all the time. So then I was like 19 years old, and so I was interested in, I'm still interested in love. I'm a romance writer, but he was so, just reading his books and listening to his tapes, he said he was so authentic and so real. And why? Probably because he knew himself well. He understood, his stories about his childhood, and about his big family, and how his mom used to cook so much food, and he just seemed so real. And that's what you want to do as a writer. Like, when somebody reads your memoir, you want them to feel that person that you are inside. You want that, so that they can connect with you, right? So readers, there's 1,000 books out there, and I've heard this a lot about memoirs. There's so many memoirs out there, and unless you're a celebrity, who's going to want to read it? Well, there's a lot of books that are written by people that are not celebrities, but people pick them up and they read them, first of all, because of maybe whatever the topic is about, but they also read them because once they start reading, they connect with that author, with that writer, right? Because of the voice that you have, because of that authentic self that you are. And I think that happens, or I believe that happens, because the writer is being real. The real writer really understands who he or she is and how to transfer that onto a page so that the reader that picks it up connects with them and bonds with them and understands that story. Almost feels like that story is happening to them because of the way the writer tells the story. Okay, so I just wanted to share that because I really liked him, and he was one of my earliest, people that I read that I like. God, this guy feels so real. I really liked him, and he was that way apparently in real life. That's just the way he was. Um, so I hope this helps, and I hope that you take some time. I have actually two blogs that I wrote about this. One, just kind of introducing the idea of get to know yourself better, even if you think you do already know yourself. And then the next one after that I wrote was just kind of ideas on how to do that. Like, what activities can you do to get in touch with your feelings more, to get to know yourself better. Things like journaling, and that's probably not popular because it's like, oh my God, I don't even have time to write my book. And now you're telling me I should write more to get to know myself. But it's a different kind of writing. It's a different kind of writing. So, uh, uh, another author, Julia Cameron, who wrote The Artist's Way a long time ago. She's written tons of books, but in that book, and then she wrote one specifically about this, which is called Writing the Morning Pages, which was getting up first thing in the morning and sitting down with a notebook and just handwriting your thoughts in the morning. And I met her once at a writers conference. It was a Romance Writers of America conference, and she was, there were just tons of people in there. It was a huge auditorium, huge room, and she was talking about the writing the morning pages. And I remember raising my hand and saying, "But can you do them at night? Like, I'm not." And she's like, "No, because if you did them at night, then they wouldn't be called the morning pages." I thought that was just the funniest answer, but but I think that what she's trying to say is first thing, or maybe what I didn't understand, I understand now what she's saying. What she said was that in the morning when you first get up, you're not influenced by all kinds of stuff, right? You haven't been out and talked to people and been frustrated and had all these things. So that at the end of the night, you're like, oh, I've got all this stuff in my head, and your brain is kind of shut down. But when you wake up, everything is fresh. You just woke up from sleep. You can grab your pen. You can just start writing whatever you can. And she didn't say like what to write. Write whatever you want. You want to write about a dream? Write about a dream. You want to write but as you go through and you go back, at the time, sometimes there were days, and I did this for a while. I don't do this anymore, but I did it for a while, just kind of get in touch with myself and what I was thinking, and just to do it, right? Just to be more creative and to kind of build that creativity. And what I learned after a while of doing this was that some days I would not have anything interesting to say. It's like I have nothing to say. I'm tired. I didn't sleep well. It was just kind of nonsense what I wrote, but I did it because she says write 3 pages. Keep writing until you write 3 pages. So I would do that. But there were other days when I would wake up and I would have like a really cool dream or something, and I would write that down. Or there were other days where I would wake up and I would have an idea that how to fix my novel that I was working on. Or there were other days when I would just wake up and I didn't really have anything in my mind specifically, but I would sit here, maybe look out my window and see a pretty bird and just kind of decide to describe the bird that I'm looking at. So over time, though, I noticed, right, that I was getting better at it, and that there were kind of patterns and themes that I would want to write about, or things that I noticed, or things that were important to me, or feelings that came out. So it's one way, and it doesn't take that long. I mean, you sit and write for your 3 pages, and then you're done. So, but it helps you to get to know yourself a little bit better understand maybe the things that you dream about, the things that you think about, that maybe you haven't considered because you usually get up, you jump out of bed, you get into the shower, you do whatever you need to do in the morning, right? But just pausing and writing helps you to get in touch with yourself a little bit more. And so I shared a few other a few other activities that you can do too that helps you to, again, get to know yourself a little bit better, and that will make you a stronger writer. So hope that you give it a try, read the blogs, and then start, if you haven't already, start writing your own story. And yeah, let me know how it goes. All right. See you next time. Bye-bye.